Sister Kate here, walking out to give you guys a little more information. I did my research on Liberia. I looked at news there today, and I also looked at some documentary that was done, I guess, around the time of their civil war, which would have been, 7 years ago, maybe. I think it was 2006. I could have that wrong, but, it wasn't immediately. I think it's at least a year old, I'll put it that way. So, yeah, some of the comments that people said on my video were true. There was definitely cannibalism going on in Liberia. There was a lot of waste and, just terrible hygiene issues. I'm not saying the whole country. They definitely honed in on a place in Monrovia, which is the capital city, a place within Monrovia called West Point or West Park or Westport that was right on the coast there. And it was pretty terrible. They were using the whole beach there as a bathroom, and that particular suburb had polluted water running in the streets. It was really a mess. Now, I have no idea what the rest of the country looks like. It could be better. Some of the commentary was on warlords, or documentary was on warlords. A couple of them in particular, now that their civil war is over, have at least the appearance of changing. The one guy's name was, I think, Bin Laden, because their generals called themselves after other, famous people. And one of them was General Bin Laden. If he's the one I'm thinking in my mind. No, there was one named General Butt Naked too. Sorry, but that's what it was. He had completely changed, and I think he had like a boys' home and was trying to rehabilitate some of the child soldiers that had been in the war. The other fellow, I think his name was Bin Laden, said he was now trying to do rehab for some of these guys, and he opened like a carpentry shop and a construction shop. And then a third fellow said he got the Lord, was in churches, was testifying, was giving sermons, was teaching other people, hymns, and he had a rehabilitating boys' home kind of thing going on too. And if those things truly are sincere, that is the right direction for a country to go that has had the trials that Liberia has had. Internationally, people make a big thing out of the cannibalism, and some of it was truly horrific. I mean, the one general admitted to killing an innocent child and eating the heart and having the soldiers eat the heart to give them strength and bravery in battle. And I know we want to point fingers and say, oh my gosh, it is horrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's horrible. But I think in the Bible, there is no thou shalt nots about that. The closest that I can think comes to it is, you are not to drink or eat of the blood, is in the Bible for sure. And, feasting on the flesh of your young and things like that is phrased in the Bible, and I think they tied it to things that happen in a siege. So I think the Bible acknowledges that stuff like that happens and that it's not good. It's like one of those things you suffer when you make poor decisions. So I think that might put it in context for believers and things about that sort of happening. Can we point fingers and say, slaves can't make a country? I don't think so. It's not easy to formulate a country out of nothing. One thing, and I think they have a constitution, I think that was mentioned in one of the documentaries. One of the things you do need is some sort of plan, and Pastor Joe talks about that. If you're going to set up a government or a country or a village or a tribe, you have to have a plan. You have some kind of unifying idea. And the other thing that it appeared to not be, happening right now there is some sort of order. They talked to, people on the street, and all of them were saying, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, someone come help me, I'm poor, I'm hungry. You need order. You really do. If you're going to form a country, if you're going to form some sort of, how do I say it? Some sort of structure, you know, that's going to last, that's not just going to be a flash in the pan, you need order. And order is not a bad thing. Order is what made Rome go from just some little hill tribes up there in the Italian peninsula to a world power that was conquering, you know, England. Order is also what, what helped the Vikings, you know, take over areas that they took over. It's required structure, a way to deal with masses of humanity. It's kind of what the Bible and the Constitution do for America, linked with, you know, business, which helps bring prosperity around. But you need, you know, a plan. You need water systems, you need irrigation, you need waste systems, you need people who know how to put them in, you need people who know how to maintain them. You need a way to produce food on a regular basis. And I get it, Africa's a tough place to live. I mean, for crying out loud, you still have areas where lions can attack you and crocodiles can grab you on the way to the river to get water. But what needs to happen is African brilliant minds, because they are there, need a way to figure out how to set these systems up in a sustainable way. And one of the things that's going to go against that is the cultures and the native religious beliefs where, you know, things like voodoo and following Zeus and all those kind of gods was that they were very capricious. The gods themselves were very capricious. And so on one day the god could be happy with you, the next day he's angry and you don't know why. That's why the Bible and Yahweh's order is really what they need. Whether people want to admit it or not, the Bible is the basis of a lot of common law, including in Europe and America. And things like you shall not steal, you shall not commit murder, you will not move the boundaries of your property, you're going to do business with equal scales, you're not going to cheat people. If you damage their property, you're going to replace it. Those kinds of rules are what help build a society. It's what helps a society be sustainable, is definite rules that make it easier for everyone to get along and everyone to do well. And I'm not even saying, you know, the biblical model allowed for slavery. If you had debt, you could enslave yourself to another person and pay that debt off. So it's not, you know, it's not the modern society that we're thinking of if it were truly biblical. Also, you would have some sort of judges or elders who would keep the rules, and there would be stonings and things, which I know, you know, some Muslim countries do stonings right now. I'm not saying you have to enact that, but you do need some kind of order. And here's something else that's kind of interesting to think about. There are no jails in the Bible. Only Romans had jails. Within the Hebrew culture, everything was taken care of right away in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, and if you brought some sort of charge against someone else that required a stoning, you had to be in on the stoning. You couldn't bring the charge, do your witness, and then run off when the really hard part came. You had to participate. So for whatever reason, it was taken care of right there. Yeah, you have to have some kind of legal system set up in order for your society to continue going, because when you run into problems, you have to have a way to solve them. So I'm not saying Liberia is done for. Liberia doesn't have hope. I mean, they have a new president. He seems to have some business sense. He seems to have a direction for the country to go in. And it can overnight go from, you know, a country that's not working to a country that's working simply by enacting some laws and giving people hope and a direction to go in. So I don't know why the Father put Liberia on my mind this week, but I think he can move mountains, and I think people who believe in him can move mountains. So maybe that's part of what's going to happen with Liberia. I certainly hope so. All right, bless you. Thanks for watching. Shalom.